What's up, guys? Welcome back to Michigan Muckraker. My name's Michelle. Today is Wednesday, April 5th of 2023, and today I am going to do a deep dive into the president of Gotion, Chen Li, and reveal who his boss is and give 3 reasons why it matters to all Michiganders. If you like this kind of content, please hit the like button, subscribe, share with everyone you know. And before I get into this, thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you can hear me all right. If you can't, please let me know. And I wanted to read and recommend this book, The Vision of the Annoited, by Thomas Sowell. And I'm going to start out just reading the preface really quick because it's applicable to this video. The views of political commentators or writers on social issues often range across a wide spectrum, but their positions on these issues are seldom random. If they are liberal, conservative, or radical on foreign policy, they are likely to be the same on crime, abortion, or education. There is usually a coherence to their beliefs based on a particular set of underlying assumptions about the world, a certain vision of reality. Visions differ, of course, from person to person, from society to society, and from one era to another. Visions also compete with one another, whether for the allegiance of an individual or for a whole society. But in some eras, one vision so predominates over all others that it can be considered the prevailing vision of that time and place. This is the current situation among the intelligentsia of the United States and much of the Western world, however much their vision may differ from the visions of most other people. Individual variations in applying this underlying vision do not change the fundamental fact that there is a particular framework of assumptions within which most contemporary social and political discourse take place in the media, in academia, and in politics. The rise of the mass media, mass politics, and mass government means that the beliefs which drive a relatively small group of articulate people have great leverage in determining the course taken by a whole society. The analysis that follows is not only an examination of the vision of this elite intelligentsia and their numerous follows in the political arena and in the courtrooms, but is also an empirical comparison between the promised benefits of policies based on that vision and the grim and often bitter consequences of those political and judicial decisions. In short, the purpose is not simply to see that kind of world exists inside the minds of a self-anointed elite, but to see how that world affects the world of reality in terms of to see how that world affects the world of reality in terms as concrete as crime, family disintegration, and other crucial and social phenomena of our times. The immediacy of the issues involved only makes it more imperative to understand the past from which they came and the future towards which they lead. Many of the intelligentsia and political patterns analyzed here became dominant during the 1960s, and many of the assumptions underlying today's continuations of those trends were either expressed or implied during that decade. However, the historical roots of the currently prevailing vision go back much further, in some cases for centuries. Both the past and the present must be explored in order to understand the vision of the Annoited and its dangerous legacy for the future. Thomas Sowell, Hoover Institution. Highly recommend all of Thomas Sowell's book. He is a damn genius. He's in his 90s now. He's out of the public eye, but one of the best economists of our time. And he studied under Milton Friedman at the University of Chicago back when University of Chicago was awesome. So I will link it down below. I highly recommend you check out his books. He knows what he's talking about. All right, so I'm going to jump in to Chen Li. And if you've been here before, seen my videos, you've seen this, but unfortunately it's hard to find stuff on Chen Li, and so the World Economic Forum has the best summary. Chen Li has taken roles in Gotion High Tech since 2014, including Director of Silicon Valley R&D Center, CEO of Gotion US, Director of Global R&D Centers, VP of Engineering R&D Institute, and now SVP and President of Gotion Global. He is a member of the CPPCC, which I'm going to get into, of Baho District in Hefei, China. Sorry, Hefei City. Before Gotion, he worked with think tanks, Bridging Nations Foundation and World Watch Institute in Washington, D.C. He holds a BS from Purdue and Columbia. Okay, so the National Committee of Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, CPPCC, sorry. The Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference is a patriotic, united front organization of the Chinese people, serving as a key mechanism for multi-party cooperation and political consultation under the leadership of the Communist Party of China. So that's the direct boss, but who is the boss of Xi Jinping? Now, he probably would hate me saying that off with their head, but I am going to show just a little bit of this, just the ending here, where Xi Jinping, the president, dictator of China, will discuss the Silk Road. So it's directly related to Gotion, but I want to point out just a couple things. First, this was 6 years ago, so 2017. So it's been a while since they've been working together, longer than this. But, no. Sorry, wrong button. Theater mode. Here we go. All right.
China's development will continue to offer opportunities to business communities in other countries. China will keep its door wide open and not close it. An open door allows both other countries to access the Chinese market and China itself to integrate with the world. And we hope that other countries will also keep their door open to Chinese investors and keep the playing field level for us. China will vigorously foster an external environment of opening up for common development. We will advance the building of the free trade area of the Asia-Pacific and the negotiations of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership to form a global network of free trade arrangements. China stands for open, transparent, and win-win regional free trade arrangements and opposes forming groups that are exclusive or fragmented in nature.
Real quick, this again was 6 years ago, and now they have fragmented it with BRICS.
China has no intention to boost its trade competitiveness by devaluing the RMB. Still less will it launch a currency war. Over 3 years ago, I put forth the Belt and Road Initiative. Since then, over 100 countries and international organizations have given warm responses and support to the initiative. More than 40 countries and international organizations have signed cooperation agreements with China. And our circle of friends along the Belt and Road is growing bigger. Chinese companies have made over $50 billion of investment and launched a number of major projects in these countries along the routes, spurring the economic development of these countries and creating many local jobs. The Belt and Road Initiative originated in China, but it has delivered benefits well beyond its borders. In May this year, China will host in Beijing the Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation, which aims to discuss ways to boost cooperation, build cooperation platforms, and share cooperation outcomes. The forum will also explore ways to address problems facing global and regional economy, create fresh energy for pursuing interconnected development, and make the Belt and Road Initiative deliver greater benefits to people of countries involved. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, world history shows that the road of human civilization has never been a smooth one, and that mankind has made progress by surmounting difficulties. No difficulty, however daunting, will stop mankind from advancing.
Yeah, advancing how? Yeah, that's the thing. The ends justify the means to these people, and I'll say that until I'm blue in the face.
When encountering difficulties, we should not complain about ourselves, blame others, lose confidence, or run away from responsibilities. Instead, we should join hands and rise to the challenge. History is created by the brave. Let us boost confidence, take actions, and work together for a bright future. Thank you.
And now you're gonna see who his boss is. A German. Imagine that.
Mr. President, it was a very, very important speech at a historical moment. The history of mankind presently is characterized by mastering enormous pressures coming from the transformational forces, technological, economic, transformational forces which reshape the world. It would be presumptuous, Mr. President, to summarize your speech, but I would like just to remind us of three very important commitments you made here, which fulfill us with confidence for the future. First, your commitment and your determination
Thank you for joining me.
the economic development of China, to continue to have China as an important force in the global economy, as a driving force, by preparing very well for the new normal through the necessary structural reform.
Now, what are the necessary structural reforms and what is the new normal in 2017? Because obviously we all know what the new normal is now after his great reset in 2020. But the fact that in 2017 he was saying this, it's been in the works for a long time.
But it was also so important to hear from you, Mr. President, your commitment to globalization. We are living in a global interdependent world. We cannot recreate artificial borders. Globalization is a win-win situation. We have a common destiny as a mankind and as humankind. So, your commitment also to a fair, innovative, open, and inclusive world is crucial.
Fair and inclusive.
I would say, I know, Mr. President, there is the Chinese dream. Let's have a global dream, a dream of a world which remains innovative, which remains open, which is fair, and which is inclusive.
Again, fair and inclusive. He keeps saying it. Okay, define fair, define inclusive.
Mr. President, we are also living in a new world. You mentioned the fourth industrial revolution. We cannot go back to old policies. We cannot just take recipes which may have worked in the old world, but which will not be appropriate anymore in order to face the new challenges.
Who voted for this guy? Who is this dude? Why does he get to say a damn thing about how the world is run?
For example, the impact technology has on employment. And here, we need new ideas, and your words were refreshing because you are committed to approach global governance, global cooperation in a new way.
Global governance. So that's what I wanted to show you from that video. I will link it down below if you want to watch the whole thing when he talks about Fourth Industrial Revolution. Might be worth your time. This came out 2022, September of last year. Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China. Bring the World Economic Forum to China. Klaus Schwab on China's development. In the summer... What's up, the Michigander? Thank you for joining me. Thank you. He is no one. I don't take orders from him or anyone. Amen. Yep. In the summer of 2007, the World Economic Forum came all the way from Davos, Switzerland, where its winter annual meetings are held, where Governor Whitmer went, to Dalian, a coastal city in China. This renowned gathering of world business leaders had its first summer session in the east of the world from September 6th to 8th. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Don't you just love that? And I'm going to get into governance here in a minute because it comes up again. In 1978, Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, with his keen perception and insight, predicted that huge changes would take place in China. See, did he predict it or did he do it? Did he make it happen because of his vision of his anointed ass self? He later recalled that he was sure that China would play a vital role on the world stage when he read that Deng somebody's reform and opening up policy in 1978. In the same year, he extended an invite to that person to the World Economic Forum. Wow, so since 78, China has been working with the World Economic Forum. Deng didn't attend himself, but he sent a high-level delegation headed by somebody else. I'm sorry. I'm terrible with names, and I'm terrible with American names, let alone Chinese names. Chen Li, director of the Institute of World Economics and Politics of the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, to the 1979 annual meeting. 3 months later, Dr. Schwab visited Beijing with a European business delegation that included 20 CEOs. The two sides signed a memorandum of understanding in Beijing and established contact. From then on, China has never been absent from the Davos meetings. In the following decades, Dr. Schwab has worked actively for closer cooperation between the World Economic Forum and China and witnessed China's journey of reform and opening up. Over the past 4 decades, the World Economic Forum has maintained good cooperation with China. Chinese leaders attended multiple forum meetings and delivered speeches. Many successful Chinese business leaders have participated in the forum and found inspiration from it. In 2005, Dr. Schwab proposed the idea of a summer Davos in China, in addition to the regular annual meeting in the small Swiss town of Davos. After the decision was made, he went through many cities in China and finally picked Dalian and Tianjin as the host cities. When standing in a temporary office in Dalian World Expo Center, with a picturesque view of the sea and mountains in front of him, Dr. Schwab was amazed by the great changes in China, the venues that are bigger, bigger, and bigger than those in Davos, and the fantastic facilities. Thank you very much, Michigander. I love all the information you guys send. You can send it anytime. I appreciate it. With the joint efforts of China and the World Economic Forum, the first annual meeting of the new champions was held in Dalian in 2007. Since then, Tianjin and Dalian would take turns to host the meetings. As Dr. Schwab said, the World Economic Forum would have two pillars, the Winter Davos and the Summer Davos. The World Economic Forum planned to make the Summer Davos a major international conference as big and influential as the Winter Davos, with a focus on internalization, a common concern of growth companies across the world. As the executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, Dr. Schwab has a keen insight into personal experience of the changes in the world economic landscape. The rapid growth of China and other emerging economies and the increasing multipolarity in the global economy have brought him to China again and again for new inspiration and potential breakthroughs for the forum. Dr. Schwab said in an interview that China has kept sustained high-speed economic growth for the past 30 years and has become one of the fastest-growing economies in the world. He said with his hands pointing upward that China has grown from a backward economy to a leading country, that instead of fixing its eyes on the West, the World Economic Forum needs to focus more on the East in order to gain impetus from China's rapid growth. According to him, after years of development, the World Economic Forum has turned to emerging economies and growth companies, and China has become one of the new champions. He believes that China is a responsible major country that can shoulder more global responsibilities. In 2017, at the invite of Dr. Schwab, President Xi Jinping attended the open session of the World Economic Forum meeting and delivered a keynote speech entitled Jointly Shoulder Responsibility Over Times, Promote Global Growth. I believe that's what we were just watching that he's talking about. His speech sent a strong message of supporting economic globalization, receiving enthusiastic response from the international community of anointed assholes. China's status and role in global economic governance once again became the center of attention. After President Xi's speech, Dr. Schwab came to the podium and gave passionate comments. He said that President Xi's attendance and speech were of tremendous historical significance, and they filled us with confidence for the future. He said that China would continue to be an important force in the global economy as a driving force. Quoting President Xi's ideas of a community with a shared future for mankind and the Chinese dream. Dr. Schwab said that we are living in a global, interdependent world and have a common destiny as mankind, and his speech was crucial for building innovative, open, fair, and inclusive society. Dr. Schwab is deeply drawn to Chinese culture. I wonder why. He likes dictatorship. He has sent congratulations to the Chinese people on several spring festivals to wish the country prosperity and the people happiness. He is also an antique collector with a sizable collection of ancient books from the 13th and 17th century, blah, blah, blah. Oh, we got a friendship medal, too. Woo. Good for you in 2018, Dr. Schwab. All right. So, going back to Chen Li, I didn't forget that individual. From AI researchers to TV producers, discover the Young Global Leaders class of 2023. This came out 14 March of 2023. Let's see. The World Economic Forum has announced the induction of the newest members of its Young Global Leaders. This year's cohort includes nearly 100 promising political leaders, innovative entrepreneurs, game-changing researchers, and visionary activists who are accelerating positive and lasting change in their communities, countries, and the world. Since its establishment in 2004, it actually goes all the way back to 93. They just rebranded it the Young Global Leaders in 2004. The Forum of Young Global Leaders has cultivated a diverse community of outstanding people addressing the world's most pressing problems. Today, made up over 1,400 members of alumni from more than 120 countries. In a turbulent and polarized world, committed, conscientious, and inspired leaders are needed to create a real-world change for benefit of all. Young Global Leaders have demonstrated their commitment to improving the state of the world by unlocking the potential of technology for the common good, unveiling a plan to revolutionize health services in rural and refugee communities, and galvanizing private sector action on pollution. You know, they make it sound so great, but when you unveiling plan to revolutionize health services, that's digital ID, baby. And that is not good. Not good for us if you want to be a free person. If you want to be a digital slave, it's awesome. The other thing is common good. the greater good, the common good. Both bad. I learned that the greater good was bad from Harry Potter when I was 12, when Dumbledore's enemy was touting that it was for the greater good. It's that tramples on individual rights. But I'm not going to get into that. Young global leaders are renowned for their groundbreaking contributions to dynamic and exciting fields. Notable community members include Olympian Louis Pugh and Paralympian Suzanne Rogers. Okay, we're going to go down here because we can see Johns Hopkins Hospital, Policy 4.0 research in India. India is huge contributor. We have an artist from the People's Republic of China here, Saudi Arabia, UAE, United Kingdom, Nigeria. Nigeria is big into the central bank digital currency right now, and they're having a terrible time. The people, the government is having fun, I'm sure, being a dictatorship. People's Republic of China, we're gonna go down here really quick. Oh, look at that. Li Chen, President, Gotion Global, Gotion High Tech, People's Republic of China, young global leader. Look at that. Recognized by Schwab. Good for him. Good for us, right, Michiganders? Great. Yeah, USA companies all over the place. We're going to look more into these young global leaders in a bit, but why does it matter? Here's another one. 10 young global leaders, Greater China. This is all just proof of how deep China and World Economic Forum's relationship goes. They're just as active as, you know, you go to North America, where is it? And you have, look at that, change.org, Canadians, of course, everybody should know that Canada has been penetrated by Schwab, as has Michigan. Whew, that, wow. Google, no wonder, research, scientist, okay. Very beautiful. Yeah. Moving on. Leadership and governance. So, World Economic Forum, this is the first reason why it matters out of 3. And the biggest one, you may say, I don't know, they're all pretty important. So, the World Economic Forum is an international organization for public-private cooperation. Where do we hear that all the time? The Right Place says it all the time. I've seen Dr. Bill Pink from Ferris State University. I'm sorry if you hear my dog. He's rolling around happy on the bed. The storm is over, so he's happy. Yeah, public-private cooperation. Of course, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation touts that same line all the time. So that is a World Economic Forum, some World Economic Forum verbiage, let's say. The forum strives to model world-class cooperative governance, where values are as important as rules. Legitimacy, accountability, transparency, and concerted action are the guiding principles of the forum. So real quick, I'm going to come back to this, but difference between government and governance. Government and governance are 2 very similar words. People often get confused about the difference between governance and government. Here we are going to discuss the differences between the 2 related words. Government is a group of people who rule or run the administration of a country. In other words, it may be said that a government is the body of representatives that governs and controls the state at a given time. Government is the medium through which the power of the state is employed. Government may be different types. It may be democracy or autocracy, but most of the modern governments are democratic. Here, we are taking into consideration the democratic ones in relation with the government. A democratic government may be defined as that which has the public mandate to run the affairs of the country, with a well-defined term after which, in the successive term, the same people may be elected again. The government may be labeled as good or bad according to their ways of working for the good of the people. If a government provides capable governance, then it has a chance of coming back into power again. Governance is the act of governing or ruling. It is a set of rules and laws framed by the government that are to be implemented through the representatives of the state. Simply put, governance is what governments do. Governance is a concept that can be followed in an organization of any size, be it single-cell organism. Global governance. The main purpose of governance is to assure good results, following a set pattern of rules. Must be clarified using an example of a business which is run by a group of people. The rules and regulations which they follow in order to run the business successfully are called the management. This involves the experience and the knowledge of the owners working together with the employees to set the target. On a similar pattern, the government is a body of elected representatives, which is headed by a single person. This body makes use of established rules. So, governance is a physical exercise of the policy with the government as a body through which it is done. Governance. Governance, you don't have a say. And that didn't explain it very well. I wish I would have found a better one. But we're going to move on. The forum is chaired by founder and executive chairman Klaus Schwab. It's guided by the board of trustees, of course, another board, exceptional individuals who act as guardians of its missions and values and oversee the forum's work in promoting true global citizenship. The board of trustees comprises outstanding leadership from businesses, politics, academia, and civil society. In their work on the board, members do not represent any personal or professional interests. To reflect the board's multi-stakeholder status, its membership is divided equally between representatives of the business community and leaders from the international organizations and civil society. A bunch of people that we didn't vote for. The managing board, chaired by the forum's president, whoever that is, acts as the executive body of the World Economic Forum and ensures that activities fulfill the mission of the forum and acts as its representative to outside parties. There you have it. Look at the board of trustees. Al Gore, look at that. Who else we got? CERN. Don't know if you know anything about CERN, but that's some interesting rabbit hole right there. World Trade Organization. Who else? MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Nestle. Hey, look at that. Nestle. Singapore. These are all... Oh, yeah, that guy. Yep, these guys are all working together to make rules for you and I, and I just love that. We're gonna go Young Global Leaders is a program from the World Economic Forum, a business league that primarily organizes annual meetings of international business and political leaders in Davos, Switzerland. It aims to create a network of potential leaders in business, technology, education, activism, journalism, and politics. The program, founded by Klaus Schwab, received the criticism when he admitted to penetrating governments with young global leaders, adding that as of 2017, more than half of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's cabinet has been members of the program. Young Global Leaders, also known as the Forum of Young Global Leaders, is an initiative of the World Economic Forum, a business league that primarily organizes annual meetings of international business and political leaders. The initiative, okay, we already know that. Young Global Leaders is a program which had a total revenue of $338 million according to its tax returns from 2018 to 2019. World Economic Forum received approximately $18.5 million from contributions and grants, which Michigan has given $6 million worth of grants to them. Just under $300 million from program services, which I mean Michiganders, because the government doesn't make money. Michiganders do, taxpayers do. Around $20 million from investments and other revenue. And it really ticks me off because why do these rich guys and girls need our taxpayer dollars? Why do they need our money? Stay out of my wallet. In total, the World Economic Forum, I'm sorry, but it's like they're using our own money against us. I mean, that's exactly what they're doing. They're taking our money and then they're using it to govern us without our vote. So, money. They have a lot of money. Although there's no financial information for Young Global Leaders, it does list its supporters on its website. These supporters include Financial Services Corporation MasterCard, Harvard University's Kennedy School of Government, and David Rubenstein, the co-founder and co-executive chairman of the Carlyle Group, a large private equity firm. During an interview, he noted that several world leaders have been young global leaders, including then German Chancellor Angela Merkel and authoritarian Russian leader Vladimir Putin. I have a clip that I'm going to show you, but yes, Vladimir Putin was a young global leader. He was a part of the World Economic Forum. Schwab continued by noting that the World Economic Forum, through its Young Global Leader program, penetrates governments across the world. Schwab admitted that when he was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, he knew that more than half of his cabinet are actually young global leaders. Schwab also stated that the then incumbent governments of Argentina and France were similar, and that French President Emmanuel Macron was also a young global leader. Not surprising, as he was a banker. He is probably still, will always be a banker. Macron, I'm talking about. A young global leader. It has approximately 1,400 members and alumni. All right. So you see BlackRock right here, Lieutenant Governor of Michigan, Garland Gilchrist. We're knee deep. Michiganders, we're knee deep. Pete Buttigieg, no wonder he hasn't been doing much when it comes to East Palestine. Is it perhaps a land grab? Because with eminent domain, if it's a blighted area, you can buy the property from people, force them out of their homes. So just a thought, just a food for thought. Yeah, because Pete Buttigieg didn't go help, never went over there. I mean, I think he stopped for like 10 minutes, but anyway. This isn't about East Palestine, but they are our close neighbors here in Michigan, and this is all connected. It really, truly is. Who else do we have? Rockefeller Foundation, of course. Of course, you can see the Rockefeller Foundation is behind all of the big moves. All of the big moves. All right. World Economic Forum orders journalists to cease and desist exposing their secret agenda September 5th of last year. The World Economic Forum has asked mainstream media, news outlets, and journalists to cease and desist exposing their secret agenda and instead focus on more important issues, such as climate change and online misinformation. Sorry, I'm not listening, World Economic Forum. Adrian Monk, managing director of the World Economic Forum, also slammed politicians who question the globalist body's policy proposals, particularly in Canada, which has sparked a national debate about the World Economic Forum's increasing control over the world since the pandemic began and the unfolding energy crisis. That's man-made. Sadly, Canada was one of those places where there's a vulnerability to misinformation. It's an open society, which I know he doesn't like, and that particular strand of disinformation went into the mainstream, Monk told CBC Radio's The House. Shh. Go lay down. Go lay down, Leo. Sorry, guys. Canada should be talking about a lot of things right now. It shouldn't really be talking about the World Economic Forum based here in Geneva. You know, there are bigger issues, really, for it to be thinking about. It really was something that was picked up by some state-sponsored disinformation actors, and it took on a life of its own in some geographies, Monk added. InfoWars. Monk went on to claim that the Great Reset term is really just a harmless talking point created during the COVID pandemic that deserves no real attention. The idea was that we should also try and suggest to people that they think about spending it on the kind of long-term things that would aid climate change combating, that would help jobs reskilling, and all kinds of bigger long-term challenges, he told Catherine Cullen. One of the things our organization tries to do is say to people, look beyond the 1 week, 3 months, and think about maybe some of the longer-term things you could be doing. That was the Great Reset was aimed to do back in the summer of 2020. Monk then suggested that anybody who dares criticize the World Economic Forum is anti-Semitic. Well, I admire anyone who makes the decision to devote their lives to public life, he said. It's not an easy road, but I do think politicians of every single stamp need to look very hard at the language that they use and where some of this stuff comes from, and if it's coming from a space of disinformation, and in particular, anti-Semitism. Well, I don't understand that, because is Klaus Schwab a Jew? I mean, I didn't think so. He's German. But, I mean, obviously you can be a German Jew, right? I don't know. But there's nothing anti-Semitic about saying that the Great Reset is real and that there are people with a vision that want to put it in place. It's just a way to shut us up. Of course, Musk's argument is itself disinformation. World Economic Forum Klaus Schwab himself boasted that his organization penetrated the cabinets of multiple governments through its Young Global Leaders program to facilitate its Great Reset policies. That fact alone is enough to dismiss Musk's complaints. The Great Reset is a multi-pronged initiative to deindustrialize the developed world, transform the global food system by phasing out meat in favor of insects, develop a Chinese-style social credit score system, and tightly control people's movements, all in the name of fighting climate change and preserving democracy. Absolutely true. That's exactly what's happening. The Chinese-style social credit system, they love that. They're trying to bring it here to America. And they're trying to bring it to all of the world, basically. You know, one world government. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the Netherlands have closely followed the United Nations and World Economic Forum's Great Reset Agenda, specifically its proposal to reduce nitrogen emissions by limiting fertilizer, which has resulted in massive uprisings by farmers, and is going to lead to us having a food shortage, a food crisis. Likewise, French President Emmanuel Macron declared the end of abundance for citizens last month amid reports that soaring energy costs brought on by World Economic Forum-linked governments in response to Ukraine would drastically reduce people's ability to heat their homes this winter. Luckily, we're getting out of the winter, coming into spring, but next winter, we need to be prepared. This year is going to be tough, guys, but there's hope at the end of the tunnel. There always is. The good guys win in the end, but these guys have this sick vision in their head. Well, to them, it's not sick. To them, they think that they know better. They think that they are the intelligentsia and that you and I are dumb plebs and that we need to be corralled like sheep. And I obviously don't think that of us. I know that human beings have a consciousness. We are a soul with a body, not the other way around. And that means that each and every one of us has something to contribute equally, and there should be nobody like these elitist people trying to tell other people what to do. Try to tell the whole world what to do. Remember, the country of Sri Lanka collapsed after its government forced the adoption of World Economic Forum policies reflected in its environmental, social, governance ESG score, which is probably why the World Economic Forum recently deleted its article, bragging of a plan to transform Sri Lanka into a utopia by 2025. Yeah, the ESG score in Sri Lanka right before it collapsed and had the food shortages and everything else that went on there that you don't really hear much about anymore. They had a score of like 98, ESG score. So if their policies don't work, and they know they don't work, but they continue to push them through, you gotta ask why. Despite the World Economic Forum's smears calling critics conspiracy theorists, the Great Reset Agenda can be thoroughly examined in his own book titled COVID-19, The Great Reset. Okay, so this is number 2 reason. Of course, China. I've kind of already gotten into the China connection, but it was important to demonstrate who the boss is at the very beginning. So we have the leadership style, which is dictatorship, basically, capitalism with Chinese characteristics. And then you have China itself being involved in all this, and the UN is last. We'll get into that. In the past 2 decades, China has reemerged as a major power. With the world's second largest economy and a world-class military, it increasingly asserts itself itself, seeking to regain its centrality in the international system of and over global governance institutions. That was terrible. I read that terribly. I'm sorry. I want to go really quick and show you. This is the Council on Foreign Relations, which is another elitist intelligentsia group that wants to tell you how to live and has been around for a while. These institutions, created mostly by Western powers after World War II, include the World Bank, which provides loans and grants to developing states, the International Monetary Fund, which works to secure the stability of the global monetary system, and the United Nations, among others. President Xi Jinping, the most powerful Chinese leader since Mao, has called for China to lead the reform of the global governance system, transforming institutions and norms in ways that will reflect Beijing's values and priorities. Again, they call it capitalism with Chinese characteristics, and there's this huge report that the World Economic Forum put out on it. Again, I want to get to, but it's like 40 pages long, and it's, government speak, so gotta sift through it. China is pursuing, real quick, journalists, this is the Belt and Road Forum, April 2019, and then this was 2018. All right. China's pursuing a multi-pronged strategy toward global governance. It supports international institutions and agreements aligned with its goals and norms, such as the World Bank and the Paris Agreement on climate change. Yet, on issues in which Beijing diverges from the norms of the current system, such as human rights, it seeks to undermine those values and create alternative institutions and models. In areas where norms and institutions are still being established, such as internet governance, China works with other authoritarian powers, such as Russia, to create standards that reflect their interests. China has become a powerful force in global governance. Increasingly, its efforts appear to be deepening divides with other countries, particularly democracies that are committed to existing norms and institutions. Ultimately, this divide could make it harder for states to collaboratively address major international challenges. The divide could even create two distinct systems of global governance, badly undermining multilateral cooperation. Stage 1. Views on international order and imperial China favored diplomatic rituals that bolstered their own ideal of global centrality. Given the self-image, they had territories and kingdoms of China orbit dispatch envoys to perform ritualistic submissions. Indeed, given their considerable economies and military, okay. This is going to be very long. I want to just read the beginning and... Doesn't that look like Biden? I don't know. 77 to 2000. After the end of the Mao era, China opened up in 1980s and 1990s, reformed its economy, increased its role in global governance, including by cooperating with international institutions. During this time, China adapted many domestic laws to conform to those other countries. Right, I mean, we saw already that they were involved in the World Economic Forum in the late 70s. They started getting involved. After Mao's death, it rejoins the world. Yep, there's Deng. We've seen that he was the one that went to Schwab and shook his hand first. In 1989, the Chinese government violently cracked down on democracy protesters in Beijing's Tiananmen Square. I don't know why I was having trouble finding the word in my brain. And elsewhere in the country, which resulted in widespread international condemnation. To help rebuild its reputation and ties with other countries, beginning in the early 1990s, Beijing increasingly embraced multilateralism and integration with global governance institutions. Beijing signed multilateral agreements it had previously been reluctant to join. It exceeded to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty in 1992, signed the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty in 1996, and signed the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights in 98. First decade, let's go and see. China increases its role in international organizations in 2010. It surpassed Japan to become the world's second biggest economy and earned the third greatest percentage of votes in the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. Meanwhile, Chinese nationals ascended to senior positions in international organizations. In 2006, Margaret Chan was appointed Director General of the World Health Organization. In office, she maintained several of Beijing's goals, including supporting its plan to promote traditional Chinese medicine. I don't know if you can hear the rain. It doesn't show up on the mic, so. China advertises its economic influence. During the financial crisis, 2007-2008, Beijing participated in efforts to coordinate macroeconomic responses. Before attending the 2008 summit of the Group of 20, China echoed the United States' call for a large coordinated fiscal stimulus. At home, Beijing introduced a $580 billion stimulus plan. Beijing then used state media and other tools to advertise to other countries. Okay. Creates its own multilateral organizations. I know it seems like I'm detouring, but it does all come to why we have the CCP in our backyard in Big Rapids, Michigan. There's Bush, old Bush. Donald J. Trump administration was expressed greater concern over Chinese efforts to subvert existing norms and has pushed back against Beijing's efforts to promote Chinese foreign policies and programs like the Belt and Road Initiative. But George Bush and Barack Obama accepted that Beijing would increasingly support global governance norms and institutions. So, you got a difference there. China challenges international norms and rules. Center stage. Since the early 2010s, China's economy and military power has grown, so too has its ambition and capability to reform the global governance system, promoting Chinese priorities and the China model. Some of the priorities Beijing promotes in global governance are defensive in nature and reflect long-standing Chinese aims, preventing criticism of Chinese human rights practices, keeping Taiwan from assuming an independent role in international institutions, and protecting Beijing from compromises to its sovereignty. Yet China also now seeks to shape the global governance system more offensively to advance its model of political and economic development. This development model reflects extensive state control over politics and society, and a mix of both market-based practices and statism in core sectors of the economy. This will, of course, show you, if you haven't seen already, that although Gotion Global incorporated in 2014 here in North America, that is part of their mixed economy. The statism is the core still, that the state runs all means of production, and that needs to be understood. So just because they say it's a North American subsidiary doesn't mean that China doesn't control it. Promoting more multipolar global governance. Xi Jinping has called for more shared control of global governance. He has declared that China needs to lead the reform of the global governance system with the concepts of fairness and justice. The terms fairness and justice signal a call for a more multipolar world, one potentially with a smaller U.S. role in setting international rules. The Donald J. Trump administration's retreat from global leadership has added to China's opportunity to fill the void and promote multipolar global governance. I wonder if that was his role. Old Trump. I personally think so. I'm sorry. I think Trump is 100% involved. Actually, I know. Because when we get later on, we'll see that Ivanka Trump is or was a young global leader as well. So he is just as involved but he had his own role to play. Sorry to everybody who likes Trump, but Trump and Biden, they're both part of this. They just have roles in the script, and that's just my view on it, but I'm going to keep moving on. Pushing for a bigger role in international agency. China has gained clout in international organizations traditionally dominated by Western countries. In June 2019, for instance, Qu Dongyu, Chinese Vice Minister of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, easily defeated the US-backed candidate to become Director General of the UN Food and Agriculture Organization. Today, Chinese officials lead 4 of the 15 UN specialized agencies. 4 out of the 15. Creating alternative institutions. Beijing also is building its own China-centered institutions. In 2013, Beijing launched the Belt and Road Initiative, a vast plan to use Chinese assistance to fund infrastructure in and boost ties with other countries. Beijing's more proactive global strategy serves the Xi administration's dream of returning China to its past glory. Looking ahead, real quick, what is this? Oh. Belt and Road Initiative map. All countries highlighted had joined the Belt and Road Initiative as of 2017. Kazakhstan, Russia, Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary, Austria, Croatia. What do we got? Albania. I've never even heard of this. Holy crap. Macedonia. I'm sorry to whoever lives there. Bulgaria, Turkey, Egypt, Ethiopia, South Africa. What about over here? Who's this? UAE, Qatar, Kuwait. I've been to Qatar and Kuwait. Hot as Hades. Did not enjoy that. Indonesia, Thailand, Myanmar, Vietnam. Okay, you get the idea. China's evolving global governance strategy is most apparent in 4 major issues: global health, internet governance, climate change, and development finance. Global health. You know what? I think I'm going to go down here to the future and we'll read this and then we'll go to the next article because I do have several more articles to share. And I did say this would be a long video, so I hope you grabbed a copy. Over the last 2 decades, China has regained much of its influence in the world. As Beijing is making progress toward its dream of restoring what it sees as its rightful great power status, Beijing has built up its influence over global governance in particular, gaining a greater say within important organizations while also launching new initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative. China's increased involvement in global governance expands its international political clout, helps it project soft power, and also promotes its domestic economic development. In the future, if its economy continues to grow over the long term, China will more forcefully set the terms for global governance. It will wield greater power within long-standing organizations like the World Bank and United Nations, and also will strengthen new China-dominated institutions. Beijing's more assertive approach could enhance the international system. China could shoulder greater international responsibilities and prod global governance institutions to better represent the need of emerging powers. It would facilitate an international solutions on climate change in particular. And Beijing has shown with the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank that it can launch an institution that works within existing global governance norms. But China's increasingly assertive presence could prove divisive, especially in areas like development finance, where Beijing's approach could marginalize existing institutions. Such divisions could paralyze collaboration in critical realms of global governance, and while in some areas, such as climate change, China does not try to impose its own visions and models, in areas of human rights and internet governance, Beijing tries to promote its own more authoritarian norms. In May 2020, Beijing passed new legislation giving China extensive power to crush dissent in Hong Kong, seriously threatening the Special Administrative Region autonomy. If China and Russia can set the standard for internet governance, for instance, they could pave the way for other countries to embrace cyber sovereignty, sparking a divided world with two internets, one generally open and the other closed and favored by autocracies. But I don't understand how you'd have cyber sovereignty under China. This was just to show, this is previous Global Future Council on China, World Economic Forum. Just to show, once again, I'm not going to read it, that they are interlinked heavily. World Economic Forum and UN signed Strategic Partnership Framework. And we just saw that China is heavily involved with the UN as well. And so that is the third reason why it matters that Chen Li is a part of the World Economic Forum and the CPPCC. So, the UN and World Economic Forum. This was 2019, right before the Great Reset started. The UN Forum Partnership was signed in a meeting held at United Nations headquarters between UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and World Economic Forum and Executive Chairman Klaus Schwab to accelerate the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And it goes all the way back around, again, to the right place and the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, who directly participates in Davos and the World Economic Forum. And we paid for them to go there. $45,000, I believe it was. And that was without security. The full partnership framework can be found here. The World Economic Forum and the United Nations signed today a strategic partnership framework outlining areas of cooperation to deepen institutional engagement and jointly accelerate the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The framework was drafted based on a mapping of existing collaboration between the two institutions and will enable a more strategic and coordinated approach towards delivering impact. The UN Forum Partnership was signed in a meeting held at the United Nations headquarters between UN Secretary, I already read that. Meeting the Sustainable Development Goals is essential for the future of humanity. The World Economic Forum is committed to supporting this effort and working with the United Nations to build a more prosperous and equitable future, said Klaus Schwab, World Economic Forum founder and executive chairman. Oh, essential for the future of humanity. According to who? According to you? Who the hell are you? The new strategic partnership framework between the United Nations and the World Economic Forum has a great potential to advance our efforts on key global challenges and opportunities. From climate change, health and education to gender equality, digital cooperation, and financing for sustainable development. There it is, financing for sustainable development. Rooted in UN norms and values, the framework underscores the invaluable role of the private sector in this work. You mean... yeah, and points the way toward action to generate shared prosperity on a healthy planet while leaving no one behind. Kind of like No Child Left Behind was supposed to leave no child left behind, and now our education is a bigger failure than it ever has been. And I know you could say stuff about the pandemic and all that, but even before then it was on a decline because the government got involved with No Child Left Behind. And when the government gets involved, it turns to shit. The Strategic Partnership Framework will focus on the following areas: financing the 2030 Agenda, mobilize systems. See, again, we gave $6 million to the World Economic Forum, and now they are helping finance the 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development, which is a public-private partnership where they spend public money but make private plans, which is fascism, and we are paying for it. I really hope that this is clear after this video. I've made several others, but this is why it bothers me so much. We're paying for fascism. Mobilize systems and accelerate finance flows toward the 2030 Agenda and the UN Sustainable Development Goals, taking forward solutions to increase long-term SDG investments. climate change, achieve clear and measurable and public commitments from the private sector to reach carbon neutrality by 2050, help create public-private platforms in critical high-emitting sectors, and scale up the services required to adapt to the impacts of climate change. This just means that our energy is going to continue to go up and up and up because they have this vision of carbon neutrality by 2050, which, again, if you know anything about carbon is a basic life source. Like, you need carbon. We are carbon-based life forms. So, war on carbon, war on life. Health. Support countries achieve good health and well-being for all within the context of 2030 Agenda, focusing on key emerging global health threats that require stronger multi-stakeholder partnership and action. Digital cooperation meet the needs of the fourth industrial revolution while seeking to advance global analysis, dialogue, and standards for digital governance and digital inclusiveness. Again, this is why they want everything electric. It's because electric means they can go digital. And digital is terrible because the reason I buy physical books, I buy physical Blu-rays as well, is because you can't change this book now that it's material, physical in my hand. You can't change it. But you can change it if it's an ebook. You can't change a gas car and what features they have, but you can change the features on an electric car remotely. Tesla has done it. So that's why they wanted electric. Gender equality and the empowerment of women. Foster multi-stakeholder partnerships and coalitions for full participation and equal opportunities of women at all levels of decision-making and for productive participation of women in the labor force, and promote equal pay for work of equal value across sectors and occupations as well as within them. As if we don't have equal pay for work of equal value. I can't stand this. It's like men take more dangerous jobs, they work longer hours, blah, blah, blah. Like this, it doesn't make any sense. If women made less money for the same job, then a company would want to hire all women so that they could make more money, right? I mean, and then define woman. I bet you these people wouldn't be able to. Education and skills. Promote public-private partnerships to address global reskilling and lifelong learning for the future requirements for work, and empower youth with competencies for life and decent work. To me, empower youth and lifelong learning, talking about education, you're talking about indoctrinating the youth, and they do have a very extensive youth program that, again, it reminds me of the 1940s German youth program. The leadership across the United Nations will engage in and utilize the different platforms provided by the World Economic Forum to advance impact and in the above areas. Both institutions will annually review the partnership to further streamline collaboration, take stock of results, and identify additional areas to jointly invest efforts in. I don't know if I kept it, but both institutions will annually review. They have reviewed recently, and they said that things aren't going the way they want, but we just got to try harder, basically. I don't know if I still have that. Real quick, I wanted to show... No, not that one. This one.
You know, what I really liked about the second book is that it starts talking about values and the principles of the revolution. And I think that's key. You know, we share similar values as well, exactly, and views on the world, which I think it's possible. One of them that we're pushing hard is decarbonization. Yeah. We're going to launch our commitment on decarbonization in February. That means we're going to 99% renewable and clean electricity. And now the challenge is we're going to plug that matrix onto transportation to reduce dramatically the emissions and to reduce the usage of fossil fuels until we don't use those anymore.
I know you play also a very important role in preserving, let's say, your forests. You have a young population, you have a relatively well-educated population. You can use the fourth industrial revolution to create, let's say, fast-track growth for your country.
My commitment will be to add value. Will be part of the Young Leaders Initiative.
This is Merkel, Tony Blair. They were all, even President Putin, they were all young global leaders before. So if I take you, if I take Chancellor Kurz and the New Zealand Prime Minister, the three youngest leaders of governments are here. So I know you have many beautiful things in your country, that it characterizes the diversity, and at the same time everything goes up.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I just wanted to show that proof out of his mouth that Putin was a young global leader, and you can see all of these people, man, they're in a big club. And Putin is a wolf to the shepherd, and that wolf is doing what it's supposed to do to corral the sheep in a certain way. Now, I'm not saying I know exactly which way that they want to corral us, and I call myself a sheep only in the context of what they view us as. Not that I think we are sheep, but they do try to use their wolves. And I would say that the shepherd, in this case, the highest up that I could see is Schwab, but he is just the face. Of course, the most powerful people aren't going to show themselves. Why the hell would you? But the wolves are Putin and China, and even the United States. I'm not going to say Biden because I don't think he's there, but the puppet seat that is the president of the United States of America. These are wolves that are playing a WWE role, and this is just from everything I've watched and read, and so I'm just giving you my ideas. But these wolves are moving in certain ways, or pieces on a chessboard, and they're moving in certain ways to get a certain thing done. And right now, BRICS is happening, where it's Russia and India and China, the emerging countries, are challenging the US dollar. And so this is all a terrible vision that they have, and they are working towards it. And I don't want it to be true, but they say it. They're saying it. If you can hear the storm, sometimes it's quite violent. We're having storms today in Michigan. Towards a new global agreement to facilitate investment for development. This is Sustainable Finance and Investment, World Economic Forum. Representatives from over 110 economies have reached a draft agreement of investment facilitation for development at the World Trade Organization. This landmark agreement paves the way to supercharge public-private collaboration that can address investment challenges and grow the benefit of foreign direct investment for development. This is how they're going to take American dollars and spend it somewhere else, which they're doing already, obviously. The World Economic Forum has been supporting these efforts with pilot projects, technical inputs, and the launch of negotiations in Davos in January 2020. Foreign direct investment can play an important role in delivering the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Investment flows help advance a nation's development by bringing capital, employment, export opportunities, greater consumer choice, advanced technologies, and managerial experience and overall economic growth. 2017, 70 economies started the process at the World Trade Organization with the goal to develop a new agreement on investment facilitation for development. 3 years later, negotiations were launched during the World Economic Forum meeting in 2020 in Davos, with 98 economies supporting the process. As of January 2023, there are over 110 economies that have reached a new draft agreement, cutting red tape and making investment easier across all sectors of the economy. The forum has helped drive impact by conveying an advisory body with the International Trade Center and the German Institute of Development and Sustainability, and has provided input, investors, investment promotion officials, and experts on investment facilitation measures. The group has shared practical insights on what was needed to increase investment flows and their development benefits in practice. With the support and that of the international organizations, business and civil society, countries have produced a high-quality agreement that includes commitments, among others, transparency of rules. Yeah, right. Transparency. That's the thing. They continue to say they're going to be transparent. Even our own governor says that all the time, but never happens. We have to beg through FOIA for information 9 times out of 10. Streamlining regulation, and then half of it's redacted. Doesn't that piss you off? It's like, you're spending my money, and yet you're not going to tell me what you're doing with it. Coordination between and within economies. Innovation instruments such as supplier development programs and supplier databases to increase capacity and match capital with firms. What's the challenge with sustainable investment? This agreement is needed to unlock pent-up capital, which is available but not reaching the communities and projects that need it. According to who? In 2021, sustainable capital surged despite unpredictable markets shaken by the COVID-19 crisis. The value of sustainability-themed investment products increased by 63%, reaching $5.2 trillion in 2021. Almost like all the wealth got sucked up to the top since 2020, so that they could spend it as they see fit. Hey, it's that public-private partnership, though. Don't you love that? Oh, don't you? I do. I just love it. Yet over 95% of this capital remains in developed markets, demonstrating that more is needed to facilitate sustainable capital flows to emerging markets and developing countries. Right. The bottom line here is that America is the plant that grew too tall, and instead of raising every other country up to America's standard, they think that that's not sustainable and that the population, there's too many of us. Where is it? Right here. They believe Malthusian bullshit. Okay? That's the premise, is the principles of population. That if we were all too prosperous, that we would just continue to have children and that the world would be overpopulated and we end up killing ourselves or something. That, for one, is an assumption, because intelligent design, we have no idea. How about we just try it, huh? How about we make energy as cheap as possible for the entire world, and we try to get everybody to the standard of America, where everybody has hot water, they could shower in a hot shower or a cold shower if that's what you like, that you could have clean water to drink, that you could have food, cheap energy, and then you can think about more than just surviving. Now, if everybody could be risen up to our level, what could the world be like? Why don't we try that? But instead, they assume that we would destroy ourselves. So instead, self-fulfilling prophecy, we're going to destroy ourselves by starving to death because of the trade supply chains being disrupted, the fertilizer, and everything else that they're doing. It's like, it's all, again, on a false assumption, thinking that you know when you don't know. You don't know what would happen if every country was prosperous like America. And again, why don't we try it? This vision of the Annoited is so dangerous because, again, it's all based on assumptions. They think that they know best. That's the bottom line. Oh, get out of here. Act globally, engage locally. This is United Nations, and I just wanted to share that that's exactly what they're doing. That is their little motto. They engage locally. That's why the townships seem to be taken over. The UN has sustainable development. These are all of the networks. Argentina, China, France. Of course, you got United States somewhere around here. Peru, Vietnam. These are all places where UN Agenda 21 is acting locally, but thinking globally. This is that very long Geo-economics with Chinese characteristics, how China's economic might is reshaping politics. This came out in 2016, and I do plan on going over it more in detail, but it is long, and so today is not that day. But I wanted to showcase this, just another link in the chain, World Economic Forum, liking the Chinese characteristics, being, surveillance system, authoritarianism. World Economic Forum launches U.S. Center for Advanced Manufacturing. So here we come back to Michigan. This was June 2022. The World Economic Forum launches its first thematic center on advanced manufacturing today, the U.S. Center for Advanced Manufacturing. The new center will join a global community of centers for the fourth industrial revolution that help shape new strategies and policies in technology governance. It will work closely with the platform for shaping the future of advanced manufacturing and value chains that drives the global agenda on the transformation of industrial ecosystems for improved productivity, sustainability, and inclusive growth. The U.S. Center for Advanced Manufacturing joins a network of 15 centers that spans 4 continents, is the first center in the world focused on advanced manufacturing, created with support from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and Oakland County. The center will engage the national manufacturing ecosystem to accelerate the transition towards advanced manufacturing through a series of local, national, and international projects and activities. It will play an active role in shaping the global agenda of the future of production while contributing towards strengthening the competitiveness of the manufacturing sector in the United States. Betty, head of the platform for shaping the future of advanced manufacturing and value chains at the World Economic Forum, who joined the announcement roundtable at Mackinac Island in Michigan, underlined the center's role in helping leaders understand and shape the trajectory of industrial transformation in the U.S. We are delighted to partner with Automation Alley to launch this new center. It will play a key role to help manufacturing companies, including small, medium-sized enterprises, anticipate supply chain disruptions, build resilience, and capitalize on the new opportunities. Through collaborative efforts and projects, the center will work with leaders from governments, business, academia, and civil society to accelerate the transition towards advanced manufacturing and help unlock productivity, innovation, and growth, while enabling workforce engagement and sustainability at scale. It will also help position the U.S. at the center of global discussions of the future of advanced manufacturing and value chains. I will leave this link down below so you can see the entire thing. Cynthia Hutchinson, Vice President of Automation Alley, will serve as head of the U.S. Center for Advanced Manufacturing. She previously served as liaison to the World Economic Forum by overseeing the Michigan Advanced Manufacturing Hub. So, World Economic Forum, Michigan, involved with each other. Okay, so I went on Substack. I got all of the young global leaders. If you don't know about Substack, highly recommend. Love me some Substack. Okay, so we're going to get into some of the young global leaders really quick. I think it's interesting to see exactly who is involved with old Klaus Schwab in the United States. We got Professor of Economics, Harvard University, and I'm doing USA right now as the keyword. Ben & Jerry's. And Congressman Robert Andrews, New Jersey. Steve Anthony from Executive Officer, Microsoft. Imagine that. Foreign Affairs, the New York Times, Thomas Friedman. I wonder if he's related to Milton Friedman. I hope not, because I like Milton Friedman. Professor of Economics, Princeton University, Paul Krugman. I've heard of that before. I've heard of Krugman. No, USA is just in that person's name. The Earth Institute, Columbia University, Jeffrey Sachs. You know what? I will say really quick, Elon Musk is on this list, but not this one in particular. He's been scrubbed. But in 2008, Elon Musk was named a young global leader by Klaus Schwab. But it's been scrubbed because Elon Musk has a role to play, and being a young global leader connected with the World Economic Forum doesn't fit in that role. He's supposed to be for free speech. He's for freedom, even though he is wanting to put a chip in your brain with Neuralink. But he is a young global leader. Actress Jodie Foster. Oh, look at that. A young global leader. Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm sure we're going to see his name on here. That hasn't been scrubbed. Another young global leader. Let's see. This is an extensive list, obviously. Chairman of Kuwait. Kuwait has a lot of sandstorms. Founder and chairman of eBay. Hey, look at that. Pierre Omidar. Oh, that's probably terribly wrong. Sorry. Well, oh, that is not USA. That is not USA either. See any philosopher? President and Chief Executive Officer. GE. Professor of Material Science and Engineering. Begley. Chairman and Executive Officer for Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. Long been involved with the World Economic Forum. Who else do we have? Engineering, Massachusetts. Okay, that's all the same, sorry. Founder, Chairman, Executive Office. John Bryant. I don't know what company that is, but... Lisa Caputo. Assistant Professor of Computer Science. Okay, we got MIT once again. Executive. President and Chief Executive Officer. Come on, let's go. Oop. Why is it doing that? That's weird. What is going on? Okay, maybe it can't go anymore? I don't know if you're seeing what I'm seeing, but it won't go down. I'm pushing the down button and it's going up. It's crazy. Who else do we have? Oh, look at that. Gavin Newsom, mayor of the city and county of San Francisco. Gavin Newsom, a young global leader. Powell. Actress. Oh, wait, right here. Co-founder, assistant to the U.S. president for presidential something. Schwab, of course. Soros, Jonathan Soros, deputy chairman, Soros Fund Management. Steiger, Zuckerman. That's not Zuckerberg. But I think Zuckerberg was once on this list as well. He might have been scrubbed, or he might still be on here. India, Kenya, South Africa, Canada. Lots of Canadians, eh? Zimbabwe. I wonder. People's Republic of China. Here we go. Got a pretty good group here. Russian. Oh, I bet you Vladimir Putin, though, isn't on this list. I'm sure that he got scrubbed, too. Let's see. Nope. Sorry if that was loud in your ear. Yeah, Putin's not on the list. And even though we just watched a video that Putin is a young global leader, so they do scrub some of these. But the internet is forever. Don't they hate that? Rothschild, CEO. We have yeah. I guess that's it. Mercer. Well, you get the idea. It's a very long list, and all the countries are involved. And that should be worrisome. last thing I'm going to share. This doesn't directly pertain, I guess, to the Chen Li, but Elon Musk, World Economic Forum global leader and secret operative. Musk's come down here. Yeah, Musk is playing the class clown on social media, entertain the masses, but if you scratch the surface, Musk appears to be a subversive globalist element, inserting himself into conservative politics to steer the GOP away from America first. I'm going to leave this link. I'm not going to say the whole thing. This video has gone on long enough. I appreciate you very much for joining me today. It has been a long one. All of the links will be down below, so please check them out. And subscribe if you like this kind of content. They won't always be this long, but this is the general idea. Fourth Industrial Revolution, transhumanism, Michigan news, of course, and Michigan is heavily involved with the United Nations and the World Economic Forum. So we need to keep our eye out on exactly what they're doing. And that's what I will do here on this channel. So subscribe if you're interested in that. And again, thank you so much for deep diving with me on Chen Li, who is Chen Li's boss, which we know is China, of course, the CCP, but the CCP's boss is the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab. Their boss, I would argue, would be the bank system, which we're going to see central bank digital currency, unfortunately. The soft launch July of this year, Fed Now, is a soft launch of the central bank digital currency. All of this is intertwined, and the World Economic Forum is basically just the face, so the highest boss that we can see. Thank you again. I'll see you in the next video where I discuss fires that are going on in Australia thanks to the EV batteries. I'll see you in the next one.